So Alvaro Bautista then, see if he can make any further improvements in the remainder of this session, but finding himself back down in 14th place. As I said, no Hondas inside the top 10 at present. As far as riders who are in a very different position in this session compared to what they were earlier on today. Bautista's the perfect example, as you said, P7 in FP1 and P14 in FP2, and more signs of that inconsistency as well that we've talked about with the Honda runners, although it must be emphasised, as always in FP2, you're never quite too sure whether riders might be using used tyres or whether someone's gone for a fast lap in the morning just to try and get something on the board. So it's difficult to tell, but it certainly has the signs of a little bit of inconsistency again from Alvaro Bautista at the start of this weekend.
I think it's also one of those situations at a new track like this where Honda just able to hit the ground running a little bit more in free practice one than some of the other teams and riders, and did not have an impact then on Bautista's time. So certainly as it is for Honda, there are some encouraging signs. 7th fastest overall for Bautista at least gives you some sign that they are making that progress to get themselves into the fight. But you also know that it's going to be really tough for them to keep themselves in those kind of positions over the course of the weekend. When you're up against, in all likelihood, 3 Yamahas that are going to be up there, the Kawasaki's, Ducatis, it's going to be really difficult for them to be able to come away with anything more than aiming for top 8 finish where they are right now for Bautista on the combined times.
We mentioned Garrett Gerloff making his way out onto track. I think he's made his way back into the pits now, so clearly just doing that sighting lap and then recovering to pit lane. Garrett Gerloff, who it does appear now will lose the final minutes of free practice 2, in line to improve in this session at the moment. Jonathan Ray's just made an improvement, 5th fastest in FP2 at 1:38.662. Charles Davies also set to improve here. Davies in fact moves above Jonathan Ray into 5th fastest, half a second down on Top Rack's fastest time in this session, a 1:38.636. It was around about this time that the fastest times of FP1 came in, with 2.5 minutes or so on the clock. Vandermark also setting a decent time, but first couple of riders inside the top 10 positions to make an improvement in FP2, and those are Michael Ruben Rinaldi, who we saw here just a couple of seconds ago, 1:38.470 for him, so that's faster than he was able to go earlier on today when he was 9th fastest with a 1:38.5. And Axel Bassani also improving, 1:38.823 for Axel Bassani, and that's a few tenths of a second faster than he was able to go for 14th earlier on today.
Yeah, here's Jonathan Ray. This is going to be just running off down to turn 9. He was on course for a personal best at this point, but you can see down in towards the hairpin, he's going to just bail on this. Doesn't even make it into any sort of drama. He's decided pretty early what's going to happen there. So for Jonathan Ray, he's just going to live to fight another day, see if he's able to get in a fast lap at the end of the session.
Yes, it looked like as soon as the back wheel left the ground, Jonathan Ray decided that wasn't worth trying to make that turn 9. So this is the heaviest braking zone on the circuit. It is a circuit that's considered pretty demanding on brakes, as well as physically on the riders that we mentioned previously, because of those bumps that are worth considering. 1.5 minutes remaining, so riders pretty much on their penultimate laps now, the vast majority of them. Scott Redding is on a good lap here, could challenge Top Rack Razgat Dioglu for fastest in FP2, 0.02 of a second up at the halfway mark on Top Rack's times, and we'll see whether he can continue that momentum on through the second half of the lap as we prepare for the closing moments now of free practice 2. Leon Haslam just making the line, and Haslam remains in 13th fastest in this session, but does improve further on the time that he set earlier on in this session, and indeed earlier on this morning. So 1:39.2 now for him. Scott Redding looks to have bailed on this lap. Whether he's encountered problems, I'm not too sure, but either way, he was up at the halfway mark. He's not going to be up at the checkered flag, that's for sure.
Yeah, he comes back into the pits as well, Scott Redding, so unless he gets himself back, well, looks like he's had that technical issue there, so for Scott Redding, he won't get to do a practice start at the end of this session. So we'll wait and see what caused the issue for Redding. He had, as you said, Alex, been on course for a good time up until that on this lap. So for Scott, at least, there's some signs of encouragement in Friday afternoon's running as well. So he's looked pretty decent all the way through today. And now, he misses out on a lap at the end of the session, but it's not really going to change too much for Scott.
And we're going to see Scott here rolling off at the side of the circuit as though he's faster on a feet-powered scooter on his way in. But session over as far as Scott Redding is concerned. Session over now as well. Free practice 2 more generally. The checkered flag now falls. Interesting that in the final moments, Michael Ruben Rinaldi and Axel Bassani are the two men to have improved. Now, neither found themselves in particularly strong positions earlier on today, but they're both riders who've done well in the warmer conditions in past rounds in 2021, and so perhaps there's something in that it's those two on Ducati machinery improving.
Yeah, I think that could well be a big thing for us to keep an eye on over the course of the weekend as well. We know that they're both able to use that X tyre very well. It looked like Redding was out there on a 0 tyre, so the harder tyre, so maybe that's an indication that Ducati feel that with Redding once again this weekend, they might be at that disadvantage at the start of the weekend in terms of the tyre choice.
Toprak Razgatlioglu then coming towards the line to complete his session, but nothing doing really up and down the order, no one in line to improve. So that's just about it. Free practice 2. Toprak Razgatlioglu, Scott Redding and Michael Ruben Rinaldi is how it finishes. Rinaldi makes an improvement of 2 positions compared to FP1, so he'll be 7th fastest on the overalls, which will knock a couple of riders down. And Axel Bassani, who was only 14th fastest earlier on today, also makes up 2 positions in the overalls to go 12th. That's the story of free practice 2, really. Not a lot of change in terms of outright pace. A slightly different pecking order with different temperatures, track temperatures in the afternoon.